All right, my name is Richard Halterman. I live in Fort Defiance, Virginia. I'm a CPA. Have been a CPA since 1979, I guess. Came out of school in the mid-70s. Wayne and I are about the same age. We're both in our late 50s. And so we really got to know each other, I guess, as on a professional level back in the late 70s. Him being a CPA, me being a CPA, there's a little bit of a common thread there. I guess that's how we got to know each other initially. I've been in the public accounting profession, and I guess that makes me keenly aware of what goes on in a CPA firm. And so much of what you do in public accounting is meeting deadlines and getting tax returns done and getting financial statements printed. And sometimes the things that really matter the most to your clients, it took me a long time to see this. In fact, I really didn't see it until I got out and looked back at the public accounting profession. I have nothing against it. There's a definite need for those professionals in the world, but the ability to look beyond just the tax return, just beyond a financial statement, and to really helping a client run his company. A lot of people are struggling to know how to change or tweak their company so that it runs better, makes more money, everybody's happy, and so on and so on. You know, I just think, you know, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but probably 90% of the CPAs out there and tax professionals can do a tax return. But it takes a little extra level of involvement to look into the numbers and really tell somebody what they mean. You've all of a sudden you've changed a cost, which is a cost of the professional service of, you know, preparing a tax return and doing financial statements or whatever level that's being done for you, into an investment. Because the money you spend for that, if that money's an investment, it's going to be a return on it that's far beyond the cost of having just an accountant. So if that makes sense, it's a difference between having an expense and investing in someone who's going to help you magnify the numbers, you know, magnify the sales, magnify the gross profit line, magnify the bottom line. I mean, that's what you really need help with when you're in public account, or when you're an entrepreneur or a business person. The biggest problem I see in dealing at the level I do, and I deal with people buying and selling their businesses, you know, every day, is that, you know, the accountability function. That's the first piece that has to be in place. You've got to know that there's a cause and effect. If you're spending money, was it worth the money you spent? Yeah, it's definite. It's important that you have that accountability function, but then it's the second piece of that is, how do you evaluate that and react to it and change, or what do you do different to make things look better? Obviously, the more solid the track pattern, the more in terms of stability of those numbers, and, you know, not the big waffling up and down. The problem you have, of course, in this economy is that, you know, we've come through a couple of tough years, but, you know, obviously, if the numbers are consistent and improving, that definitely says a lot. In fact, a lot of the multipliers we use when we're valuing businesses on a more consistent basis, you'll use a higher number to come up with a higher multiple of earnings as to what that company's worth. Most small business people don't have the individual pieces that make a company work well. They may be task-oriented and good at doing a job. Maybe they're good at making something, or they're good at fabricating metal or whatever, you know. But to take it from that step to the next step, which is to grow the company, and let me also say, you know, even having the resources to having a controller in place, or a marketing person in place, or an HR person in place. And what's nice about somebody like Wayne is, you know, he's got all that skill set that he can bring to the table at one time. You know, and you're basically buying a little piece of his skills at every level of that. And one thing about Wayne, I have to say, you know, obviously a technician from preparing taxes and the financial accountability and the measurement process, that's a given with a CPA. But, you know, his level of knowledge about marketing and looking at different ways to grow your business, you know, that's hugely important. Having somebody that can assist you in how you go about hiring employees the correct way, how to get the right person in the right job, you know, that's hugely important. Most people take it for granted. I mean, they take an employee on because it was somebody that said somebody should hire them, you know. And there's more to that process than that. And, making sure you have the right staff in place is another key part. And I think that's where, Wayne is got a little piece of all of that you get rolled up into one guy when you buy him. Wayne's just a fun guy, I don't want to say that accountants are a stereotype in one sense, but in one sense they really are. He's a very extroverted kind of guy. Not to imply that all CPAs I'm going to get shot for saying this, are introverted people, but he's just a guy you could go sit down and have a meal with and have a good time. And I think for him the relationship is more important than the money. Being able to help you. He's a guy you can trust. I don't think he would ever wrong you, or if he did wrong you, he'd certainly make it right with you. He's just, he cares about people and relationships and nurturing those relationships.